Welcome back to the LOW APM Challenge, where you ostensibly are here to learn how to play the hardest 1v1 game in the world a little bit better. Glossing over the fact a incredibly high percentage of you are just here for the edutainment and the vicarious feeling of actually pressing the ranked button, moving straight past that, up the ladder, working smarter and not harder. So far, we've made it to Platinum 1. While, especially with Protoss, keeping the APM low, but we're encroaching on the Diamond League. So, some of you more clever individuals may point out that the lesson plan does not involve the Diamond League. Therefore, you don't need to learn anything to get there. But, no, instead, all of these things we've been talking about throughout the series, we're bringing them all together, and it is my opinion that Diamond and beyond is pretty much all of these things just done faster and more efficiently than anything before. You get supply blocked a little bit less, you get your tech a little bit quicker, you build a few more probes, and you die to a few less cheeses. And that's all StarCraft is all about. If you want something to give you a loot crate afterwards, or maybe a nice fancy skin so you can pat yourself on the back with a participation award, well, you always have Roblox out there. I hear it's quite popular. But if you want to work smarter and harder, welcome back to the LOW APM Challenge. Later on, we'll address actually a ton of questions, very great questions. These are the Terran... Jimmy, these are the Terran questions. What do you mean the Protoss? No. We have Protoss questions as well, but we'll be doing that later on. A lot on the last episode to go through. But first, jumping in to Platinum 1. Yes, we are on the new patch. You may have heard Void Rays aren't quite as cheap or build as quick. Queens no longer can transfuse off a creep. And that's really all the changes that matter. For Protoss players out there. Technically, shield batteries that are not near a Nexus now start with 50 instead of 100 energy. This is mostly, almost entirely, for proxy void ray cheeses. That was when it was most relevant. So, but we're going to be focusing on nailing down the builds, especially in each matchup, because as Protoss, you do need a different setup in every matchup. We're not playing random here. So, especially against Zerg. So putting your buildings in the right spot is more than half the battle. Makes your life a lot easier. Assuming you survive things like Zergling all-ins. So that first probe, Control 2. I like to put it so the edge of the power field is hitting the edges of where I want a wall. Bring down another probe. My first probe in Protoss versus Zerg is going to go Scout. Now, a lot of the times in higher level matches, you'll see players try to block the expansion, and you can give that a shot. Sometimes you need to send the probe out a little earlier, but if you send it off a pylon, most of the time you'll get there by 55 seconds to a minute, which... yeah, that's when they take a hatchery. Thank you for demonstrating. I actually didn't send it out immediately after the pylon. If I did, maybe we wouldn't be in this scenario, but... I'm going to set up a shift patrol until I see the spawning pool here. I'm going to rally down my 19th probe to go build a Nexus. Alright. And now I'm going to right-click and then patrol between the third bases until about 230 to 240. What happens then? Well, that's when the Zerglings come out with your average build. And for reference, Zergling speed, if they are going about as quick as possible, is about 3 minutes and 30 to 40 seconds.
Don't got the minerals.
This is now my builder probe. Thank you. It now has a permanent job as the builder probe. At least for now. I'm rallying to these gases as well. Let's hotkey the gateway. And here's the thing, just because Void Rays were slightly nerfed doesn't mean they're not still a good opener. As you may have seen in some pro matches somewhat recently. Going Stargate as an opener is still very popular because, well, you can go for Oracle, and I think in Diamond, and there you go, there's your Zerglings at 230. It doesn't have a particularly quick extra base, but it's quick enough. I'm actually going to queue up another Adept here. And Chrono Boost that first one. We're going to start the Stargate.
Shall persevere.
This is now my Builder Probe. We're going to get that wall.
Whoa, hey, quit attacking our pros.
Alright, Swan. Bring it home. And this first Adept, I'm not trying to do any damage with it. I'm just trying to put myself out there.
Glory to the Daylon.
So, 2 Adepts. And if you're feeling spicy, you can build a third, maybe a Stalker here. I think I'll build a Stalker. This is for helping to deny Overlords. I'm still going to go Void Ray first. I'm just going to look to see if he has either third base here. And I'm going to build another pylon in the natural. He does have the other third. Start that Void Ray. Chrono Boost. Now I'm going to send in the Adept towards the main and run out. So you get 2 shades, and then he has speed done. He does not have a lair done, or started rather. So we got all the info we need here.
Research complete.
I'm going to get 2 Void Rays. 1 for their side, 1 for mine. That's the plan.
Gotta construct some more pylons.
And more pylons, because
Gonna need more
obviously.
pylons.
How does Swan know better than me?
Better start warping in some pylons.
You're a Terran. And with the second Void Ray started, I'm going to start a third base. With the third, I'm going to shift-click, or I'm going to shade some of the Adepts out there as well. And we'll work on getting that Triforce set up. There we go. And then Robotics Facility and Twilight Council. And at 5 minutes, extra gases. I'm going to shift A-click the Void Ray around. We're going to get a shield battery here. How many probes? I'm going to queue up a few more. And that means we'll get to 50. And you know what happens at 50 probes? More gateways. But here's what we're going to start doing. Building some of those extra gates, not all, but as a wall off at the third. We're going to warp in a couple sentries as well. We'll start charge. We'll get a forge now as the Twilight finishes. More advanced builds will get the forge alongside the Twilight, but I want to focus on one step at a time.
Can't. Need more minerals for that.
We're going to rally to this base. In fact, I'll bring a few probes over. I don't mind. You don't need exactly 16, but getting kind of close is good. This should be, I get one more. I don't know if that's exactly 8, but it's close. I now built an observer. Gonna build another one. Get a cannon. And as my third is finishing up, and also charge, Templar Archives. I'm also going to send out a hallucinated Phoenix now. Because one big risk with this is Mutalisks. If he goes for Mutas, then I could be in a weird spot. Upping in more Zealots. Gonna get a few more Pylons. I will siege up an Observer here. Looks like he's building a whole lot of Roaches. So, classic strat. I'm gonna start Storm. I'm gonna warp in Templar as soon as these... Yeah, we got 10 gates. That's very nice. A second Robo. I'm gonna hotkey these. But I'm also gonna acknowledge that if he attacks me too early, I'll just make him into Archons. Let's make sure we got all this. He's moving out.
We shall serve forever.
Nobody saw that.
Gonna need more pylons. That mineral cluster's mined out.
Chrono Boost Storm. Oh, that's a lot of roaches.
Gotta construct some more pylons.
We're gonna need some good force fields here. I'm trying to wait until Storm.
Mineral cluster depleted. Don't think we can.
Because a couple Archons are not enough here. There's the Storm.
Depleted that mineral cluster.
Gonna try to make the Archons.
Gonna need more pylons.
Charge up the Void Ray. Move back the Immortal a little.
Better start warping in.
The next Immortal got stuck as well because obviously a little bit of micro.
Don't think we can warp in there.
So that Immortal getting stuck is very bad for me. Gonna build another Robo. The Immortal needs to kill my Forge to get out. So that's not ideal. Can build some more Void Rays as well.
That mineral cluster's mined out. Won't work without a power.
We'll get another Nexus, because obviously I don't have the money here. I mean, I have the money, I just can't warp in time. Control click the Immortals, A click, A click. We're gonna warp in some Archons now. Yes, I say warp in Archons because that's essentially what we're doing here. Because we want to focus the minerals on Immortals. So this is why I say it's so important for Protoss to build their buildings in the right spot. I don't just mean walling off. I mean walling off your own units can have that much of a difference in the fight. That's, as you can see there. I'm warping in some sentries for Force Field and Guardian Shield. I'm gonna set up, because remember, we're not forgetting those 1-2 attacks. Yes, he had a bunch of roaches. Yes, it was scary. Yes, we're gonna chrono boost here. How many probes do I have? 69. Nice. But not nice enough. As so now there's a risk of mutas as well.
Justice be done.
I'm gonna get a prism, because pretty soon we're gonna think about that as a big option as well. I still have an observer on his side that I'm pretty constantly looking at, or at least glancing.
Can't. Need more minerals for that.
Yeah, he's got Hydras. We're probably gonna be looking at some lurkers relatively soon. I'm actually gonna hotkey in my Stargate and build an Oracle for Revelation potentially.
Upgrade complete.
I'm using Select All Army and using that to select the Warp Prism there, which we should be able to see better. Jimmy.
Gonna need more pylons.
We're gonna put the probes into gas. Set up another base.
Dimensional strings attuned.
Control 3. Shift click off one zealot here. Oh, we found his army. Thinking about coming in over here. I'm gonna... We gotta move a little, but we're bringing the zealots in. We're gonna storm.
Our base is under attack.
Make sure those zealots, those are the priority right now. Building some more immortals with that hotkey. We've got zealots in the main. We've got zealots in the third. You know, he's probably not using particularly many control groups. Gonna warp in some more storms. Gonna move the prism here. Shift click onto the hatch. Get some more gateways. Move the prism back towards the main. I'm gonna make some stasis.
Our fates are one.
We are the blades of iron.
Mineral cluster depleted.
I'm an attack. We embrace the glory of fire.
So his army isn't at home,
Array complete.
which we can use force field here. Shield battery overcharge. Storm.
We shall stand against the darkness.
Make some more immortals.
Depleted
Templar!
Mineral cluster.
We embrace the glory of battle.
Did I make a dark shrine? A dark shrine would have been very nice to have alongside all this as well.
That's got to be placed in a power field.
Justice.
Control Shift 1.
Beam guys is tapped out.
Control F1 to select all idle probes and send them on over.
Mineral cluster depleted.
I return to serve.
3-3.
I out.
Get another prism.
Enemies trying to take out a pylon. That mineral cluster's mined out.
He might be trying. Yep. That's not his full army. Oh, we did go over. It was a bit dicey. Honestly, if I hadn't walled off my own immortal, if I had spent one more second setting up my base less terribly, all that struggle, because it wasn't just the fact that I had to deal with the immortals being trapped. It was that I had to constantly fight to defend my third. With two more immortals, that goes from barely holding to smashing the roaches as Colonel Forrest the Mount. His name, the hero immortal's name, was literally Colonel Forrest the Mountain. Two, not one, but two things known for their sturdiness. So, imagine more colonels. But as is the punishment I pay for. Every 5 APM, I go over that limit, which for Platinum. So these limits are drawn from the average APM of the entire league, according to over 3 million replays on SC2 replay stats in the last year. From the entirety of last year. We just took the whole last year. And it is lower than that, is the idea. So usually about 10 to 15 APM lower. It is a little depending on the race. But, so that is what that number comes from. Not just some arbitrary one, but literally the average APM. Let's see if I can... I do want to look at it again, actually. Just to make myself feel better and to show off the power of SC2 replay stats. Because who doesn't love... Do you love numbers? Let's get these Terran players out of here. But... So, if we wanted to look at last year... not... Oh, this isn't it. Which one is it? Ah, here we go. Global replays reporting. Anybody can look at it. Last year. Group by division. And then... I'm missing one match. Oh, here we are. General. Average APM. And there, of course, you can search by other metrics, like which race gets supply blocked the hardest in the Gold League, for example. So this is across all. Do we have an actual... Can we see how many games, just so people know? This isn't a tiny... So across, in Platinum, 750,000 games last year uploaded to SC2 replay stats. The average was 110, but can we see by which race, please? Of course. Oh, on the ladder. Let's narrow that down a little. Let's see how much that narrows down the games. Like 40%. Actually, not, no. It doesn't narrow it down much, because remember, this is by rank, so... There's a way to do it. Oh, here we go. By matchup. There you go. So that'll delineate by each race in each league. Actually, by each matchup in each league, but... Where's 1v1? All right. Nope, not unranked 4v4s, please. We're getting there. So, ignoring unranked and bronze, because bronze has its own issues. In Platinum, so the first row is Protoss, then Terran, then Zerg. Okay, good to remember. In Platinum, the average Protoss in PvZ had 111. Wait, is that... No, that's average overall. Had 92 APM. So, you see where... And then in PvT, 93. In PvP, 87. So, generally, the idea is... The APM chart is drawn from the average minus 10%. Or minus 10, rather. Like in gold, you have 76, 75, etc., etc. Diamond, while you can't see, there is nothing tracking which tier is which. There is nothing tracking that. That's actually just an arbitrary thing added that's not tracked. So you can only see all of Diamond. So that is why I added my own. Surprisingly, well, can we bring the chart up again, Jimmy? We have 110, 120. So the average APM for a Protoss and Diamond is somewhere between 120 and 130. So that is why I imagine Diamond 1 is significantly higher than Diamond 3. So that is why I just added that progression. As you can see in Master, it's more like 170. So skewing towards that. They're all cannon rushers and sky tossers, though. I don't think they are. In fact, I'd be surprised with these average APMs. Oh yeah. So anybody can find all those fancy numbers on SC2 replay stats. I wonder if it's gone up this year or down. It'd be interesting to see. I could just look at it in between the games. Unfortunately, this game has players, so the queue time is not long enough to... I was just taking time away from the gameplay to do that. I do apologize. Because the queue time... That's part of the struggle of queuing up in SC2, as you know. When you press the button, it could be literally 0 seconds before you find a match. There's not... And it does feel like... It definitely does feel like... If you're like, I don't know, and you go to cancel, that's exactly when you... Tell me that hasn't happened to you before. You're like, you know what? Never mind. You go, you click it, but as you click it, the match is found. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. All right. It happens. All right. It's definitely not confirmation bias. So against Terran, I'm building... right the first pylon near my closest gas. I don't think it really matters which gas. It's a little map dependent. This is like a half-hearted Reaper block is what it is. So this way you have a pylon near your main mineral line, but at the same time it's not exposed, because if you wall off the Reaper, like at the Reaper jump location, which is actually over here on this map. There are 2 jump locations, but one can be walled by a single pylon. Then that area is vulnerable. So he's got 2 gases here. That's interesting. I'm going to get a cyber core. This isn't going to discourage me from expanding, but I'm just going to keep scouting here. This man has been hurt by probes before. Also, if he hadn't built the barracks in his main, I'd be scouting around for it. In fact, I'm not going to build the second pylon on the low ground quite yet. Well, there's no second chances on building the second pylon.
Oh, a follower.
I'm going to start with a stalker here. I'll be honest, I don't know what he's doing. I'm going to scout back up. We see a reactor. He's building Marines. I am going to block his reactor with pylons. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying this is a reliable strategy, but it definitely is an effective one.
They're going after our probes.
I'm gonna cancel one. I would say don't try this at home, but if you get the opportunity, it's not a bad one.
Our base is under attack.
Yeah. So the reason I did that is because it was very clear he wanted to just rush Hellions or Widow Mines. And I was fully willing to lose the probe to see what he had on the ramp. Because if he goes 2 gas, but he builds his barracks in his base, there are 2 options. One, he doesn't know a build, which I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, which you need to start doing. 2, he's doing something with the barracks that I need to know about and is worth losing a probe for. So if he built a Reaper, I would know he didn't build an add-on, and he didn't open Tech Lab for concussive shells. If he didn't build a Reaper and he built a Marine, that means he didn't build an add-on or a Reaper, so I don't have to defend a Reaper. And if he didn't build anything and he built a Reactor, well, then you might be able to block him landing, and I mean, we saw the whole tech there. So even if the probe dies, it gives information based on how it dies in that scenario. If you get the opportunity to block, cool. But, like, it is not a requirement. So we also did have a starport. I don't know if it's going to be a... I'm going to actually put a probe out here. I do want to take a third, but I believe I saw something on the mini-map, which I'm going to go ahead and assume was a medevac. And if it wasn't, it was still something on the mini-map, right? So he's expanding here. We're going to move this to a safer location. I started a Robo Bay, by the way. It was a medevac. He's sending out something else. I'm gonna build a pylon here and get a third nexus. And we saw him building there. That's a Liberator, but we also saw the medevac. So, this is... Guys, you're at the wrong house. Alright, we'll wait until we're right underneath. And yeah, we'll put that convention to a quick end there. I'm gonna split off my observer to siege up in this area now to look for drops. We're gonna push this observer a little. Sometimes if you put it up close enough, people won't scan it. I don't think that's super reliable, but you can maybe get away with it. I've got 50 probes, which means gate, 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 forge, goose. No. I don't... We'll get a shield battery, this time in the front, because this shield battery is for defending against bio pushes.
Don't think we can walk in there.
I've got a Colossus done. We're getting extended thermal lance. Don't need to show him anything.
That mineral cluster's mined out.
He's gonna have several Widow Mines with this. But the best defense against a push is a good offense. Because you don't want to let him burrow his mines, is how I was going to finish that sentence, but actions per minute speak. Alright. So the idea is you try to get him to stim. You try to get him to get caught out of position, because option 1, he's staring at his army, he's not staring at home. Option 2, he's trying to get anything done at home. How many control groups? That was just one. I'm not adding in... Other control groups are like a builder probe. It's not until I have things like sentries or a prism. Not sentries. Sentries go in the main control group with that army. It's not until we have like Templar, a prism, maybe an oracle that we're using other ones for the army. But no reason to get complicated when it's obvious I'm going to be stuck on defense for a while. So when you don't have the one unit that is debatable is Blink Stalkers, and since we're not building those, it's not really a debate. But sentries are a priority spellcaster over everything but Templar and maybe Disruptors. I'm pretty sure sentries are lower priority than Disruptors, but I'm not 100% on that. Anyway. We got another Diamond Terran. Either way, it's rare you want... I'm pretty sure Disruptors take priority. It's rare you want Disruptors to move with your main army because they don't have an auto attack, so they just kind of slowly glide into the enemy, which is not ideal.
We need more minerals.
Setting up camera locations early. Gateway. Chrono boost. Kill the cleaning bot. Always an important part of any build. I like getting the Cyber Core before the Nexus. Especially if you're not super confident in your timings. You gotta be careful not to delay the Nexus too much. Like, that is the risk of if you get Cyber Core before Nexus, is just... I got another 2-gas player. Interesting. Let's just go ahead and assume we're not gonna be able to block a reactor, but that doesn't mean we won't try. So Curious Minds has a ramp. There's the factory in his base. Important to note, Curious Minds has a ramp, so I'm going to build my second pylon. The reason I didn't build it on the low ground on the last map is if you don't have a ramp up to your natural, you are more vulnerable to early attacks because you don't really have that high ground that they have to run up. So it's much easier for, like, I don't know, concussive shell marauders, or even things like Hellions to confidently run in. Chrono boost, but otherwise we're going to stick with a similar opener here. Robotics facility. I expect the Reaper, because that is most of why you would go for anything early. I am. No, we're just gonna go in with the probe. Gonna take a look around. When that warp gate is halfway done, let's see what's up here. 2 Reapers and a Hellion. So this has been going around. I'm not sure who inspired this. I assume there was some pro out there who inspired this, but this is one of those builds that does require the element of surprise and some micro, so I'm gonna get another pylon on the Reaper jump location because I can't split my units because they might actually die. Because this can kill, like, it can kill an Adept easily. A Hellion and a Reaper can kill an Adept, let alone, like, 2 Reapers and a Hellion. So it can deal with any early Adept pressure.
Looks like that research.
I'm getting that Robo Bay, second Observer. And if it's taking too long before anything happens, we're just going to go ahead and assume that he's going to follow it up with something. All right.
I am here in the shadows.
He's going to try to jump into the main with the Reapers is the plan, which is why I sent the Shades back. He sent something out now, which I think was a Liberator, but I'm not 100%. So the fact he's building all these units means he doesn't have anything higher tech here. We managed to get the whatever. My words are failing me. I think there's a Liberator or a Widowmine drop coming, but I'm not 100%. I need more pylons. Let's just slap them down in places we don't have pylons. I'm splitting my adepts. Because I can't really send out units right now because he has those Reapers. That is the advantage of having them. Is I'm just kind of stuck. He killed the Observer. We're going to move this one into position. Gonna get more gateways. Get a forge. Shield battery. More pylon. That is quite an army he has. Once again, best defense is a good offense. Those tanks are sieging though, which means we gotta get back. More shield batteries, another Colossus. Now we spread out, move back the Colossus here. That was a pretty scary army. But the key is seeing it and stopping it before it becomes a problem. Sitting back and letting that siege up, I probably would have died. But fighting it on the field before it's set up, we overdid it. But I am towing the line between exactly what I need and doing too much. I am failing. Got to get back in the groove. He had a grand total of 25 SCVs. He took an expansion, but he didn't really use it. The expansion was a fake. I didn't realize how committed he was. I could have stopped at 50 probes and been completely fine. But no. Do you recommend Panic? I've been experimenting with panicking. Panicking is always good, except for all of the time. So I would give it... Was that exactly the same amount of time as last game? Alright, so 6 minutes and 53 seconds is when you can expect... Wait. Alright, so 6:53. Wait. The last game was exactly 6:53. So you just 6 minutes, 53 seconds. Get that build down. That is when... No. So your general timings are... A 1 base is 3 to 4 minutes. Early 2 base, like a 2 medevac play, like a Widowmine drop, and just in general, but especially against Terran, early 2 base, like they've expanded, but they still want to pressure you, is 4:30 to 5 minutes. A 2 base attack, all in or otherwise, is between 6 and 7. Like, if they're really committed like that, they're moving out at 6. But if they're, like, doing a 3 racks, +1, combat, shield, siege tank, that's more like 7 to 8 minutes, depending on how sharp their timing is. So you can kind of line that up. Of course, I'm not usually looking at the timer. I'm just looking at my build and how far along I am. Like, I'm building a Colossus, and I have 50 probes, time to build more gates. Because if I haven't screwed that up, then I'm usually okay. But sometimes things go sideways, and you need another metric. And if you're like, well, I lost a few probes, but he also took some damage, like, it's 6 minutes. Is he doing some shenanigans here? Oh, it's another Terran. He had a Zerg. This screws me up way too much. He cheated, though. He's using the Queen of Blades portrait, which is 1,000 Zerg wins, by the way. So, Almost fooled me, but this button exists, by the way, in the top right. The Alliances button. Of course, you can't change your alliance in a 1v1 or a normal game, because obviously, but it does allow you to see. Though, if they are random, it will just say random. Just for those wondering. Unfortunately, I am of the opinion that random should at least have a choice to show what race you are. It's just you don't want to be decisive enough to choose when you're loading in. But it never has been. These sweaty-ass Terrans. I'm going to shift right-click on the SCV. Can we just get a Terran who expands like a normal person? No. No. This guy, like, we're not even going to see the 2 gas he's building. I am pretty convinced he does have 2 gas. He's building off of the Rex. And we're going to leave for now. Starting with the Stalker. We're not going Adept. If he was doing a 1-Rax expand, I'd probably go Adept. But he's hiding. And the Stalker is a bit more multi-purpose. I'll follow up with an Adept. But, I mean, you can still go Adept, I think. Get a robotics facility.
They're going after our probes.
He's got Marines. We see the factory. He only has 1 gas. So, this is... He only has 1 gas, and we see the factory building. He was just trying to hide that he's doing a normal build. Okay.
We serve with pride.
So, I mean, if his Marines had been in position, he would have been able to deny my probe coming back in, but he was a little out of position. I probably would have seen the expansion, but... Why don't Terrans always make that wall? So, with a normal 1-Rax expand build, you don't build a second depot before the command center. It delays your second command center. Let alone the building time on the SCV as well. So it actually delays the rest of your build. And it's pretty easy to scout what you're doing. It can make you look like you're hiding something, but it comes at the cost of delaying your own build. So he slowed himself down to try to deny me the information and usually get me to freak out. But instead, well, here we are. I'm actually, instead of rushing into another base, I'm gonna get a few of these. Let's see what he's doing. Stim, 3-Rax. I got the Robo Bay. He actually has 4 racks. So yeah, this was the right call, getting these 2 gas. Why? And then getting supply block. Why? Because at least I can think about building Colossi now. Until these pylons finish. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 racks. So this is another 2 base.
Gonna need more pylons.
The answer to this is Colossi. I'm gonna actually get 6 gateways before. I'm gonna put a probe on each watchtower. A reason to put the probe is 1, select all army. 2, it doesn't count as an idle worker. And 3, I'm gonna need my army. Get some sentries. So, this type of game, it's going to be very important for me just to never be out of position. Once again, it's always important. It's always important. But especially now. As it's very likely... Yeah, he's already building. It's important to note Vikings. So I will probably actually add in a disruptor or two. We're going to add a few more stalkers just to have... We're back to the stalker-based composition as something that has range here. I mean, if he goes Vikings and doesn't have enough medevacs, that isn't great for him either. But I will get the Ruptor.
Research complete.
Because he can't really do that much of either. It's a pretty big decision on which base to expand to. It's very nice for me to have this observer, but you can't always rely on that. Just to be clear. I'm going to get another robotics as well. Because robo units are... Alright, control 3. I'm just starting out with a different hotkey. Didn't he have a medevac? We're gonna get a battery, a cannon, another pylon. He did.
We need more minerals.
I'm here in the shadows.
So have some stalkers ready in the main.
I live on.
Can't. Need more minerals for that.
Control F1. Spotter pylons. Gonna get some immortals mixed in. Twilight Council. Gonna send the stalkers over there. Another cannon and battery. And a pylon.
That mineral cluster's mined out.
Also, we need more gates. He took a third. So, now the question is, do I want to attack? Do I have any advantages for attacking right now? Not really. I don't have charge. I have these disruptors, but an attack would rely on me hitting disruptor shots, pretty much. There's no reason to be relying on something that is literally, by definition, hit and miss. And get some more gates. The safest thing I can do is add in things like Archons, upgrades. The disruptors are good defensively, but they're kind of risky offensively. I'm gonna get Warp Prism speed and a Prism. Chrono Boost every upgrade I can get a hold of. And while I'm playing a passive, it's not so much a passive game as a cautious one. As right now, I'm, well, yeah, I'll show him this much. I see everything he's doing. He does not see, he has not scanned my observer, so.
Better start warping in some pylons.
You're right, Swan. So that'll die the same way.
Your demands.
Looks like that research is done. Gotta construct some more pylons.
More upgrade.
Mineral cluster depleted.
So the best way to deal with a pesky Terran who is starting to build a dangerous army is a Warp Prism.
Tosses out this has been a PSA from your Zerg friends.
A Warp Prism. In general, the most consistent way
More pylons.
to exploit someone who's out of position or committed to an attack. So, we're gonna have that prism. Does he have any turrets? Not on the edge.
Is chilling for 1 month.
So here's what we do. Momentarily, I'm gonna be maxed out. We've got... Oh, here we are.
Under attack.
So he's attacking. Rapid fire warp in.
Can't do that. We're at maximum supply.
Move the prism back. He drags his army back.
Whoa, hey,
My army goes forward.
Depleted that mineral cluster.
We embrace the glory of battle.
Better start warping in some pylons.
We embrace the glory of battle.
We have disruptors as well. The observer will see his army. Fire a disruptor shot. Back off. The disruptors will cool down.
Upgrade complete.
Build some more Archons because he didn't really have anything for him. Get another base. Now he'll very likely attack with what he has left.
Ancient glory reborn.
He sent his army back. Build some cannons over here.
Your demands. I am the
Once again, he moves his army out of position. This observer's been paying for itself. Fire 2 shots. Pop a Guardian Shield. Where are the Vikings? They're not here. The well-placed observer made the game infinitely easier. This is why you'll see pro Terrans, even if they don't spot an observer, they'll scan their army before they move out. This is an example of why. Now imagine someone like Showtime with an observer like that. I think we went over. That was... yeah. Oh, no, we did it! Actually... the reliance on more powerful units definitely helps. Yeah, OBS is map hack, essentially. It takes a little more effort for it. I mean, so is scan, but a more temporary basis. Observer map hacks are the most reliable. Sieging up BarrackOhama. Another Terran.
Don't got the minerals.
I guess I know.
Solo flock is chilling for 28 months. GG.
That is an early SCV. So either... But he's sending it directly towards my base, which means probably an engineering bay block. This is actually one of the YouTube questions that I don't know if we have to respond to, but I think if you see it early enough, sending 2 or 3 probes is the way to go. Like, and then just dealing with it. Because it doesn't take that long. I'm still gonna get the Cyber Core first anyways, so... He has 1 gas. He wasn't actually building out of his barracks here. I think he was staring at the engineering bay. And waiting to cancel it. If you don't see it immediately, like, sometimes this is why, if you watch Clem sends his SCV off to the side. The only reason I was able to deal with that so quickly was because he sent his SCV straight out. But this is why Clem hides the SCV from the probe. Because otherwise, they can block the block pretty quick. So, same opener. We're gonna go Robo. I'm rallying not to my natural right now, because this guy... We're gonna do a little bit of micro. Gotta be careful to essentially attack cancel, because the Stalker is a pretty long, like, cooldown animation. I'm not gonna get too far into, like, little micro tricks, but both Stalkers and Adepts are pretty notorious for how bad their animation is if you don't actually stutter step it. They take quite a time to get there to line up for the next attack that you could be moving them. So. I'm gonna get a sentry. I have time here. I'm gonna chrono boost some probes out. Get another pylon and one at the corner of the main.
Can't. Need more minerals for that.
Where shall we march?
There's a bunker. You let me in? I'll take a look.
Ding! Research complete.
Little micro. Is that an armory? Engineering bay. And he also has 2 Hellions, which means I'm taking a 3rd. He had actually a reactor there. His starport wasn't done though. And he has a 3rd command center.
The firstborn shall persevere.
I'm gonna put that first. I'm gonna get a shield battery in my main as well. I'll get the shield battery at the natural. This was usually for a Hellion wall, but
We need more minerals.
only if the Hellions are so early it's needed. I'm getting a 3rd observer here, because I think this guy's gonna be a little spicy. Gonna need to warp in a few units in the main, because it's very... Ah, he's walking out. So the 3rd observer will be shift 1, 2, 3, shift 1, 2, 3. This 3rd observer is essentially... oh, there's the Hellion drop. that's for the army, such as it is.
Combat.
I hate Whittle Mines.
The firstborn shall persevere.
He has more mines, which just increases my interest in going for Colossi. He has a Liberator here. Which we're gonna move some of those probes out. And a little bit of that stutter. Right click 1, 2, 3. Right click 1, 2. How many probes? 3 more gateways of probes. And a forge. And a twilight. And a couple more gates, because I'm not spending my money very well. I'm not rich. I just came into a lot of minerals. No, you can't have it. So, he's still got enough at home. We're gonna get extended thermal lance as well. I think that's a Whittle Mine drop. Yep. Oh, it hit a different probe. More Whittle Mines.
Legacy is chilling for 18 months.
For the greater good. So that was 4. You can only have 4. Still annoying. But we got the Twilight so early because he saw the Robo Bay already. Which means he's already building Vikings. So we're still going to get another Robo. That doesn't mean you don't build Colossi. It just means you acknowledge that they could be less than the only counter. Especially if they walk across the map for no discernible reason. Once again, an observer paying dividends.
Got mineral cluster depleted.
We'll start a 4th, but unlikely to finish it.
Gonna need. Don't think we. They're going after our probes.
Is there a Whittle Mine here? He's just now taking his 3rd. Like, a lot of players will build the 3rd, but Terran players are scared. Alright, they're cowards. That's why they play Terran. So, he took that long. He built the 3rd. He had the 3rd done for 3-4 minutes now.
That mineral
But
cluster's mined out.
I'm gonna have this counterattack ready.
Gotta construct some more pylons.
We've got a Templar Archives on the way. Get some gateways.
Like that researchers don't think
Cannon.
we can warp in there.
More gates. Why not? More gates.
Upgrade complete.
His army is no longer where it was.
Enemies trying to take out a pylon. Got the minerals.
We're gonna send out a Zealot. Get a couple of Archons. Get ready to send these in. There's some... Well, the map is dark and full of Terrans, so... Wherever the map is darkest, that's where we assume the Terrans are. How many probes am I at? 81. It's actually a bit much.
Mineral cluster.
As I make more,
We
I'm
got a
gonna get
pylon under
some
attack.
setup
Need
over
more
here.
minerals for
Gonna
that.
move the observer a little. Send a few units out.
We stand as one.
Get a Dark
He's trying
Shrine.
to take out a pylon.
We are the blades of iron. I return to serve.
We'll move this observer up more. So I'm kind of trying to cut... Oh, there's his main army. We're going to
Our
send
base
these
is under
guys in.
attack.
Being this far out of position was really bad for me.
Better start warping in some pylons.
He got the Nexus, but he stinned twice for it, which is quite a cost.
Mineral cluster depleted. That
So the Zealots I sent in ended up being quite successful. Unfortunately, Widow Mines are Widow Mines.
need more gas for that.
I am here in the shadows.
I think we do need some Disruptors here. So that one spot of vision I didn't have, well, guess where he went. So, we're gonna have another warp in here.
My meditation is over.
Have the counterattack set up. I'm gonna get Observer Speed, which is definitely an underrated upgrade, I think. Get another Robo. He's moving his army out. Once again, the map hacking observer helps us out.
We embrace the glory of battle.
Get some scattered. Partially, these are to deal with the mines, to be honest. The cannons.
Ding! Research complete. Depleted that mineral cluster.
I'm picking Templar or Disruptors. Both, even the top players struggle to deal with. We can pretend like they're doing it, but... Alright. So I'm gonna send a DT for every base. And then more from this side.
That mineral cluster's mined out. Don't think we can warp in.
Under my administration, every base will get a Dark Templar. This is my commitment to you.
Depleted that mineral cluster. That mineral cluster's mined out.
Make more Raptors. The DTs are still going.
Battle is upon us.
I don't know where his Vikings went.
We embrace the glory of battle.
We can move this back.
I bask in
Command me. I like for hire.
Control click off of select all army.
is upon us.
Depleted that mineral cluster.
We embrace the glory of battle.
There are the
You're
Vikings.
exhausted.
We see some Liberators. Stargates for potentially Tempests or even Carriers.
We embrace the glory.
Mineral cluster depleted.
We embrace the glory of battle.
Make sure we always have those sentries.
That mineral cluster's
The Guardian Shield has way too much value to ever ignore. You gotta have that Guardian Shield. We're gonna get Blink just to make sure the Stalkers can do something. Until there's range and like 4 or 5 Liberators, it's not that important. Oh. I bet there's another Liberator over here as well he's sending out.
I'm here in the shadows.
But at this point, his economy
depleted that mineral
is not
cluster.
great.
Vespine guys is tapped out.
There's no... Right, most of his army seems to be over here, so we'll move into this area. I'm going to start a fleet beacon as well. We'll siege up an observer here. Did it just roll over the MMR? I didn't get promoted. Oh no, it's season lock. I'm now Diamond MMR. But it is the last week of the season. So I could play my placement matches again and get into Diamond. Oh, I way overdid it that game. That guy was better. He did well. He forced a lot of micro with Widow Mines and Liberators and Hellions. So for those who don't know, for the last week of a season, the season ending April 1st, is it an out-of-season April Fool's joke? It depends on which season you're talking about, I guess. For a week beforehand, the season is locked, and you can't rank up. You can leave League and replace, but it does clear out your history. I mean, I could do that, and I'm debating that right now. But overall, why does it do this, and why is that the case? I don't know. It was something to make sure servers didn't explode back in the day. It's always been like this, and I still don't exactly know why. But so there are just a few more days to the new season. Yes. And the next season will be the first one entirely on the new patch. I don't know if we're getting new maps. Who knows what the intern's going to throw up on his lunch break. Also, another important point, like everything, your MMR still goes up. Like, the leagues actually, it's reinforcing the idea that the leagues mean nothing. Because your MMR will go up. I could potentially get all the way to Grandmaster MMR and still have a platinum border during this beautiful purgatory week. But yeah, that is how that is. So if you're wondering in this very specific timing why that is, well, I don't even know if it's I think it says it on current season when you look at it. Yeah, season lock. Doesn't explain what that means, but there are no new players to this game, right? So we're gonna wrap as we get closer to Diamond, and not just to drag this low APM challenge out, but because I think it is better for educational and entertainment purposes to not have 3 hours every episode. I do want to be a little more focused. And today, luckily, we got almost all Protoss versus Terran. And I think Protoss versus Terran, it's actually my worst matchup at the higher leagues because I'm not a cheesy fuck. Real concern. And I think a lot of Protoss struggle because so many Terrans do these weird and unpredictable openers because they don't want to play the later game Terran versus Protoss. So, that is going to wrap up what is now essentially Diamond. Honestly, part of it is I don't want to leave League. And, well, next episode will be Diamond after one placement match. So look forward to that and beyond in the next episode of the Low APM Challenge. But now, no, we're not done. We do have a very important part that you've all been waiting for, I am sure. It is the YouTube questions. There's actually a lot of good questions. I had to pare it down pretty significantly. I tried to actually answer some of the questions I saw that I didn't put right here while I was playing. And we actually had a few scenarios like, what do you do if you get NG Bay block kind of stuff. And I keep trying to do that because there are very good questions that might not be well explained. So first, important question from Chris. Now Void Rays have been nerfed. It's time to go back to cannon rushing everyone. Thank you, Chris. Hi, Winter. I have a couple questions. Is there a way to select all idle workers without having the camera move over to them? Control F1. Control is the modifier that selects all of a certain type of something. Whether it's control clicking on a unit on the screen or selecting the idle workers, because F1 by default is the idle worker hotkey. So when you hit control and F1 at the same time, it selects all of them. And how important is it to hit Chrono Boost? Should you keep it in the back of your mind or just use it whenever you notice the relevant buildings? So in the early game, Chrono Boost is what allows Protoss to keep up with Terran and Zerg. Zerg has Larva Inject, and Terran has Mules. Chrono Boost is very important, at least up until you get your second level of tech. It's something you should always have. You should never be at 200 energy if you can avoid it. Essentially, the longer it is the bar you're trying to make shorter, the more important it is past that 5-minute mark. So early on, chrono boosting once or twice on probes, and then your first gateway unit. And if you can't figure out somewhere else to spend it, on Warp Gate is always a safe choice. And then from there, usually upgrades, big tech upgrades like Charge, things like Colossi, or Stargate units. But Chrono Boost is a big part of playing Protoss, and it's what allows Protoss to keep up with the other races. Because Protoss doesn't have any get extra minerals or build a bunch of extra workers mechanics. Chrono Boost is the macro mechanic. So think of it as drawing even, not an additional boost. Even though it's literally called Chrono Boost, but just words. F1, no, if you press F1 from Twitch chat, it selects the closest idle worker. I don't know if it's the closest to your camera. It selects an idle worker and rotates through them. But Control F1 selects all. We got Miko. I feel kind of proud to not get supply blocked a single time in my games anymore. It's almost set in stone when I build pylons and where, so I don't even have to think about it. Seems to me a good position to be. Can spend... Okay, you know what? Just read straight through. It's all one sentence. I kind of almost set it in... Okay, one more try. I kind of almost set it in stone when I build pylons and where, so I don't even have to think about it anymore. Seems to me a good position to be in game. Can spend brain resource elsewhere. Yes. Does seem. That is true. You don't want to build too many, but yes, very much so. It's actually, I might be forgetting to commentate it past the first pylon, but it's the pylon efficiency and necessary infrastructure safety rating. Your pylon efficiency and necessary infrastructure safety. And you want it to be as healthy as possible. And that means not building too many pylons too early because you won't have infrastructure, units, workers, but also making sure they're in a good spot so they can't be sniped off, and you can power a significant amount of buildings. So, finding that mix, especially up until you get, like, after you get your third, it starts getting a little more haphazard, I think. But your first through 3 bases, you should have an idea of where the pylons go, because there's only so many maps and only so many places to put your pylons. You play enough games, eventually you get into the habit of it. And that's important. Like, you can literally copy. And you'll see the replays of this series in the description, but you can literally copy me, or even better players. It's not hard to tell where their pylons are. Like, it's not a difficult thing. It's even simpler than Zergs copying Overlords, because Overlords move, and thankfully pylons do not. So you don't even have to watch a whole game. Just screenshot, like, a pylon set up at a base. And you're like, eventually I'll build my pylons there. And then eventually we'll get to why. For shield upgrades, does the calculus on upgrade priority change if you're playing defensively? Shouldn't batteries make shield upgrades better? They do, but overall, weapon upgrades are by far the priority, followed by armor upgrades most of the time. But if you're very Archon heavy, maybe shields. I would still say the priority is weapons first. If you're incredibly Archon heavy, maybe shields, but mostly Zealots. Because it still remains true that Zealots and Immortals have twice as much HP as they have shields. So, and things like EMP exist, which it doesn't matter what shield upgrades you have, it just ignores it. So, making sure they survive longer via armor is usually the priority. So, hi, Alejandro says, hey, Winter, I've been seeing a lot of success with Mass Stalkers with Blink and Immortals on the front. I fear that I will hit a wall since I'm around 2400 MMR. Do you suggest to change my build or just keep winning with the good old Stalkers? Alejandro, you are commenting on the Gold to Platinum low APM challenge right now. I suggest you watch what's on the screen before you type. And then maybe get back to me once you've gotten to Gold on the Platinum low APM challenge. But these comments are from the Gold to Platinum, where just to clue you in, if you skip to this one, I say stop building Stalkers when you could be building Archons and Immortals, because Stalkers will not get you much further than silver blindly building them. There has to be a reason. Bob, with some true honesty and modesty here, says, Winter is truly the most humble person I've ever seen. I think so as well. I'm one of the most humble people I've ever met. Nick Jensen, excellent series. Glad you're doing it for each race. Under what conditions and what time should I build a second forge? And same question for a second rebel. I actually tried, I remember this question. I tried to show it a little today. The summary is when you can. Like, the first forge and the first robo are kind of set in stone. Like, the robo is, against Terran at least, the first thing you build after the cybercore, the first tech building. And then the forge is after 6 gates, which is after 50 probes. Sounds like a lot of steps. Not that many steps. Again, in the other matchups, maybe you get the robo after the Stargate or something. But usually the forge is around when you're getting to 6 gates, because at that point you're building enough gateway units to justify those upgrades, right? Whereas second forge and second robo are pretty much 60 to 70 probes. You usually will have the money. Let's be honest here. Like, you usually will have the money. In fact, like, I think a lot of Protosses are a little bit too strict on their builds. Like, it feels almost like a matter of principle that they aren't building these extra forges as opposed to something practical. So I did have one thing I did want to show as well. But Jimmy, do we have our meme? We got to have the memes on point. Otherwise, what is the point without it? Oh, here we are. Somebody did make a good graphic of the largest banks in the world. And here you can see that even pro players know that investment strategy in the long term is important. So, all of these well known for hoarding more money than they probably should, but still somehow coming out on top economically. Oh, there you go. The summary is, like, once your third base is well established, second forge, second rebel usually. We got Incompetent Hacker. Hey, thanks for the content, my dude. I always have fun, but then I get to play. I can't macro. I just rush Stalkers. If I need to build a third base, my brain hurts, and I normally quit the game and go back to Stalker's Blink. Which doesn't make any sense, but I get the idea. Because I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you quit the game and then go back to Stalker's Blink. Blink to the future. But maybe you and Alejandro can get together, and between your brains, maybe combine with Miko, who has found extra brain, and together you can figure something out. I'm looking forward to this collaboration. Human Each Route says, how do Disruptors compare to a High Templar and Storm? I feel like those games with High Templar Storm would benefit a lot more from the value that Disruptors bring, near insta-kill Novas as opposed to Storm and squishy Templar. Pros and cons. Disruptors are actually harder to control than Templar, reliably. This is because they don't have water balloons, part of it. Templar at least won't wander into the fight and die. Also, Disruptors have quite a cooldown.
Good. Now I have your attention.
And are built out of a robotics
Strings is chilling
facility.
For 3
Thank you,
months.
Mr. Strings.
We
So Disruptors they actually take more micromanagement. And one thing to consider is Archons. Archons are probably, especially below Masters, one of the strongest units in the game. Disruptors cannot merge into a super disruptor when they fire off their shots. Templar, even when their storming lives are over, can become Archons. So that is why a lot of the time Storm or just Templar in general are preferred, because it doesn't overlap with robotics time, and you do kind of have a fallback even if your initial splash damage doesn't work out. Disruptors definitely have a place, but they are higher risk for somewhat higher reward potentially, as we saw today. But they are definitely a riskier unit, especially if you're not staring at them much of the time. On top of the fact that insta-kill also counts for your army, including your zealots. So does Storm. Yeah, Storm also does friendly fire, but not as quickly. So, and I'm probably butchering it, but what, Benoit? I would like to know how to lightly micro my units after A-moving. I often feel half my Archons and Immortals are too thick, and they're stuck at the back of the line trying to find a way to get in range. My Zealots are doing all they can in front. So, while this seems like a meme comment, it's actually a good point. A lot of the fight should be done beforehand. This is why you don't want to stumble into a fight, especially with the CIA composition, the Charged Light Immortal Archon, because it's thick, right? So that is the difficult part. Usually, if you can't get the Archon set up before the fight, it's worth considering retreating and spreading out your units a little more. Because Archons are not well known for their nuanced anything. It is a real concern. So essentially just the way you can avoid fighting into choke points is actually hitting anywhere else. I know this means you can no longer use the select all army key. But I'm referencing what we did today, which is one Warp Prism or even one Zealot run by can sometimes bring an army entirely out of position, which means you have, not all the time in the world, but a significant amount of time to put your army in the right spot. And I think a little bit of APM invested in doing a run-by or a warp-in can save you a lot of headaches trying to jostle Archons past each other into a choke point. The very simple answer is lightly micro something else on a different part of the map, so that way you don't have to try to micro Archons because they're not very microable. If you have to do it, I suggest control clicking, by the way. Control clicking on Immortals or Archons and just moving those units individually, but usually it's easier to set the table in a more advantageous way than to try to rearrange it once it's already there. We got Xenolagor. I haven't played SC2 for a solid 2.5 years now, starting with a 2 and then typing out and a half. I get it doesn't even look weird. I don't know why that's what I'm focusing on. But anyways, I've reached Diamond 3 times. I want to get back into it. Winter is and always will be. Okay, let's... The person I come back to for a catch-up, a nice build, and generally a good time. Thanks to all your videos, streams, and ability to always make me feel stupid throughout the years. Like mother, like son. The man who speaks in clams. How about instead of taking bases, you get based? I like the name. That's it. That's all I had for that one. So, good questions. There are a lot of questions that you guys asked. I'm looking at them. I'm trying to, even if your question isn't up here, I hope to answer at least the spirit of it during, while I was playing and in between the games. And I hope to continue doing so in the next season, Season 2 of 2022. And you know what? I'm going to make a challenge. I want everyone who's actually playing to play at least 5 games for each league they're in at the start of the next season. If you're watching this, well, congratulations. The season starts for you today. So that means 5 games for bronze, 10 silver, 15 gold, 20 platinum, and 25 for Diamond Leaguers. Masters Plus, if you don't need that many to stay Masters Plus, stop fucking cannon rushing me. But that is the challenge going into the next season. See how long you can keep that up. I think that is about the minimum amount to maintain a certain level. And let's be honest here, like 25 games sounds like a lot. Many of the games, especially at the higher levels, are maybe 10 on the outside, 15 minutes, if you're playing your more standard. Maybe SC2 replay stats can tell us that. Maybe I'll look that up before the next one. So if you're not willing to put 4 or 5 hours in, I don't think you can expect to be at the top 20% of the most difficult 1v1 game in the world. But for only slightly more time investment than watching this video, I think you can do it, unless you hit other people who watched this video and played slightly more games, in which case, well, thank you for watching. But before I go, we have Twitch chat questions. Do you mean arcade games? Yes. No. Do you use grid hotkeys? I do not. I do have some hotkeys guides. I use modified standard hotkeys, slightly modified. At the beginning of each episode of the LOW APM challenge, I talk about what hotkeys I'm using for it and why. And for each race specifically, though they don't vary much between. When you go one gate expansion in PvP, I wouldn't. I'd stick with the 2 gate. How do I get YouTube commentators to say hi to me? I'm not sure how that works. Best co-op commander. I'm a big fan of Mengsk, but I also really like Stetman, actually, because Stetman is very micro-intensive. And I like Carrick's because he shoots the big laser things and builds cannons real fast. Yeah. Pew, pew, pew. Do you think SC2 is more difficult than Melee? I assume we're talking about Super Smash Bros. Fighting games. Not the fact that Melee maps are what ladder maps are called in SC2. I think they're very different skills. I think fighting games require a better reaction time, even than SC2. And they require much more in-depth knowledge. I say that because you don't really need that specific knowledge in SC2. But SC2 is a strategy game, which means you have to constantly be thinking about a bigger picture that you don't have to when you're playing fighting games. There's not like another fighter gonna take, well, unless I don't understand. There's not another fighter that's gonna tag in and require a different form of fighting. But like, I think fighting games are a ton of fun to watch, and I'm not an expert. I think I could be wrong, and difficulty is subjective, but there is definitely a case to be made. I'm not dismissing it outright. Would you consider Storm over just Archons against Bio like you faced today? So here's the... I do consider Storm. The reason I built Archons was to cover for my RoboBay units. RoboBay units are more reliable. Because Storm, they're not Archons when they are storming. They're vulnerable to EMP. And... well, generally it's Colossi into other forms of splash. So Templar are great, but if they go Vikings quickly, I like just going Disruptor Archon. If they go for Liberators, I might consider Storm more. If they go for Ghosts, I stick with the Colossi. But I try not to make it too complicated, even at the higher levels. Because at some point, like, it's not Hogwarts. Come on. Like, you got Storms and Disruptors and Blink and Sentry abilities and Force Field, Warp... like, it's too much. It's too much. So I think focusing on one and then, if really necessary, adding in a second flavor of active splash. And by active splash, I mean either Templar or Disruptors. That is the... it's a lot. It's a lot. It's kind of like using Ghosts and Liberators for Terran. It can be done, but it's a lot to manage on both sides. And I think you're usually better served by seeing if you can do a counterattack or pull them out of position rather than trying to juggle all these abilities. If you see a bunch of Liberators... wait, you said not Libs, Vikings. I think I did answer that, yeah. Elite AI owns my Zerg every time, unless I rush. Maybe that's the start of the next Zerg episode. Is there a way to download Winter's hotkeys? I think literally yes. If there's even a single YouTube comment that asks for it, I will still probably forget to add it to the description, but I don't think my hotkeys are necessarily the best. They're just what works for me after 12 years of fearing change, so... Is it good to get a bit of experience with all the races as a new player? Yes. This will be the last question. It's a good question. And I don't mind answering this on every episode because my recommendation is you play each race to level 10. Yes, a lot of you are like, wait a second, levels? Because you're already maxed out. But level 10's like, I don't know, 5-6 hours or something, depending on what you're playing. Could be team games, could be against AI, could be ladder. And then you decide your main. I actually think it's better for everyone, including those of you who've picked a main race, to play 3/4 of your time. Let's say you're a Diamond player. We're going to be Diamond next season. So 20 of your games, main race, Protoss in this case. And then, which race annoys you the most? Terran? Is it Terran with their stupid Widow Mines and their dumb Liberators? Is it Zerg with their exploiting the fact I never learned how to wall off correctly? We'll pick that one. Whichever race, Zerg or Terran, 5 games. And you'll probably lose those games because your MMR in ranked is for each race individually, but it will drop quickly if you are losing those games. I mean, option 1, you figure out how to counter it. Option 2, you figure out, oh wait, this is very good and I need to try harder to counter. So, I think 3/4 of the time generally should be the focus on your main race, but it is very important. In fact, I think, well, pro players are not nearly as bad as they were, but there was like, I remember Game Time being platinum with Terran. He complained about Terran a lot less after playing Terran past platinum. He was in WCS as Zerg, so... but I think nowadays most players have at least dabbled since there's been separate race MMR in each of the races. So, and of course, my new player's guide to SC2 still applies. Maybe someday I'll remake that. But I mean, it was for when free-to-play was released, and it hasn't changed much since then. So, I think it's still pretty good. Thank you, Lazy.
Lazy
So,
Tribe is chilling for 8
remember,
months.
5 games per league for as many weeks as you can keep it up as we go into Season 2 of 2022. Your season. The summer of winter. Wait, summer doesn't really start till like this third, because it's like 3 months. The spring of winter. Yeah. We don't vet these beforehand. So, thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe. I hope I made your day and your games a little bit better. Tell me if you like the shorter episode, split into more parts, or a nice long one instead. Thank you for watching. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.